What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I wrote version 1.0 decklist of a commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby, it's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The decklist is going to be down in the description below. As well as I'd really appreciate it if you get anywhere with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider checking out the links in the description. I'd appreciate it. But today, we're finally starting Aether Drift, and I cannot wait. Today, we're taking a look at one of the two face commanders from the precon decks. Today, we're looking at Saheeli, Radiant Creator. A teamer 4/4 human artificer that says whenever we cast an artificer or artifact spell, we're going to get an energy. And at the start of combat on our turn, we can pay 3 energy. If we do, we get a copy of a target permanent we control, except it's a 5/5 creature in addition to its other types. It has haste, and we sack it at the beginning of the next end step. Saheeli's effect is interesting, right? Very similar to Satya, right? That was released in the Modern Horizons 3 energy deck. We're actually going to cover updates for that one tomorrow. But it adds on an interesting little line of text at the top, right? Whenever you cast an Artificer or Artifact spell, you get an energy. Artificer is important because that was a huge thing in Kaladesh the first time we went there. And now we get to add artifacts on top of it as well, which is very interesting because I think it's going to help add energy over the course of the game. So what's our game plan? How are we going to take Saheeli and turn it into something good? Well, I think we're going to want to find key things to copy with her ability that provide us more value when we copy them. There's a lot of ways to look at that. You can find creatures that maybe add energy, creatures that do something when they come in. We'll talk about some of that. We'll talk about more ways to copy than just Saheeli's ability. There's some ways we can interact with that, especially in our colors. And then since we have energy, we want to talk about ways we can make energy matter for us in our game plan. But all right, what are we going to look to copy? And I think there's a lot of approaches to this. On the energy side, you have things like Aether Torch Renegade or Aetherwind Basker. Both these creatures make or give you energy when they come in. Aether Torch Renegade gives you 4. Aetherwind Basker gives you energy for each creature you control. So if we think about it that way, right, we're paying 3 with Saheeli, and we're at minimum hopefully going to get our cost back, if not get more, right? Aether Torch gives 4, Basker could be 5 or 6 or 10, depending on what our board state looks like. But the point is, if we're going to do this, we want to pick a creature that's going to give us more energy back than we paid to get it, and we can attack and what have you. The thing I like the best about the Basker is that we can actually put energy in it to make it bigger, and it's a 7/7 with trample. So when we make a copy of it, it's going to be a 5/5 with trample. But the point is that it could grow itself. If you need to get the extra damage through and you have a bunch of energy laying around, you could put it into the Basker and make it a real threat. I love something like Cyberman Squadron. So it says non-legendary artifact creatures we control have myriad. So the way that's going to work is that because Saheeli's making that copy of that thing into an artifact, that means it's going to get myriad. Or if you choose to make a copy of Cyberman Squadron, they will actually have double myriad, meaning that the person you attack is only going to have 1 copy of that token coming at them, but everybody else is going to get 2. So think about that with the Basker or the Torch that make energy on enter. Now the myriad copies are making us even more energy and becoming more of a threat. I think it's important to remember these artifact synergies that are going to exist because she makes an artifact copy of it. Pima Aetherseer, when it comes in, gets energy equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Not too bad. At minimum, right, this could be 5. If the copy of Pima is 5, and that's the biggest, we're at least getting 5, right? Rogue Refiner gives us 2 energy and draws us a card. Not really the most thing we want to do with Saheeli's ability, but the truth is, it is a option, right, if we needed to. I think Stridehanger Automaton from the deck's another really fun one. It buffs all of our Thopters, and anytime we make 1 or more artifact tokens, we make that plus a Thopter, meaning that every turn Saheeli is making tokens is going to net us a Thopter as well. And with multiple Stridehanger Automatons out, we can make more. The really fun thing to remember is that we keep that token through the end of the turn, meaning if we were to start our turn, go right to combat, make a copy of this Automaton, which with the original out would make us a Thopter, and then in our second main phase, we managed to make another artifact token, right? We would net more and more Thopters, right? And kind of give ourselves a little army of Thopters to deal with. Triplicate Titan was in the deck, and it makes a ton of sense, right? It's a 9-mana 9/9. When it dies, you get a 3/3 golem with each of its individual abilities. Well, that's pretty great because for just 3 energy, we can get 3 3/3s, right? And That seems pretty great. Then you have a Triplicate Knighton who the copy's only going to be a 5/5, but it still has, flying and trample, so it's still probably going to hit. A card I think looks a lot of fun, especially if we can pay off all of these artifact token ideas, is Threefold Thunderhulk, a 7-mana and 0/0 that comes in with 3 counters on it. And whenever it enters or attacks, we make a gnome token for its equal to its power. So my thought here is when it comes in originally, it's going to make us 3 gnomes. And then whenever we make a copy of it, it comes in a 5/5 with 3 counters on it that's then going to make 8 gnomes immediately. And now we can really take advantage of some of these artifact creature synergies if we have them. And if not, the Thunderhawk can just grow itself by sacrificing the gnomes. But my thought is pay off all these artifact tokens that are going to be there, buff them up with abilities or use them for other things. But the truth is now we can start threatening to just go wide and have another kind of dimension to our game plan. Same thing with Whirler Rogue. When it comes in, we make 2 Thopters. And we can tap two artifact creatures, 2 artifacts we control that aren't tapped to have a creature become, unblockable to turn. Well, this is great with maybe some of our other threats. But the truth is, at minimum, we could just copy Whirler Rogue, get a couple Thopters for it. And now we're going wide. We're making more value to our board than just that one creature making every turn. But I think there's more ways to look at copying. You have things like Phyrexian Metamorph that can come in as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield. Could come in, copy a key artifact that maybe we want to have around, or another creature like Stridehanger Automaton, or some of those artifact creatures we care about there. Aurora Shifter is kind of interesting. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, we get that much energy. At the start of our combat, we can pay 2 energy to have it become a copy of another creature we control, except it has this ability, and then whenever it deals damage, it gets that many energy. This is really interesting because I think this would be really fun to copy something like Stridehanger Automaton or some of our other artifact creatures we want to copy, to have their ability laying around but still get them in the zone, right? Still get them in attacking and potentially net some more energy that way. And then Saheeli from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, we could pay 2 mana to make a copy that's a token that's a copy of another target creature artifact we control, except it's an artifact and just its other types, and it gains haste. So here, interestingly, for 2 mana, we could copy a key artifact or a key creature until end of turn and get some more value. I kind of like that there's more of these options available to us rather than just Saheeli. But I think as we transition into the energy side of the deck, there's a lot of ways to get energy other than, Saheeli making it when we cast things. And there's also other ways to care about using energy. So Architect of the Untamed and Nissa both get energy when a land comes in, which is actually a great ability. We're in the perfect colors for that. Architect of the Untamed can make us an artifact token for 8 energy, whereas Nissa can pay 8 energy to play any permanent, so we can actually just cheat out some things by just paying energy. And then Lightning Rugger is actually a really interesting creature that has the potentiality to give us infinite combats in the deck. So it says whenever it attacks, we're going to get 2 energy, and then we can pay 8 energy. If we do, we untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there's additional combat. Remember that Saheeli's ability goes off every combat, not only once. So if we had enough energy to pay for Lightning Runner and pay for Saheeli, we could, go infinite combats. And this is a 2/2 double striker, so it does actually punch pretty well, although later in the game it's going to be a little bit harder. But think about it, it's not just Lightning Runner that you want to copy. It could also be, is it worth to make another copy of something else? And if we're just rolling in energy, well then, you could do this over and over again. I'm not saying this is the, infinite game plan. I'm just saying that Lightning Runner has an option here to take an extra combat. If you have a key thing to copy that can get in for big damage and do something or get a key effect, well, we can pay 8 energy to do it again, right? Get another key ability again, get another thing again. And I think 8 energy is more than worth that at the right time, depending on what we have access to. So keep that in the back of your mind with something like that. Pia, the ultimate commander of the deck, says whenever one or more artifact creatures we control deal combat damage to a player, we get 2 energy. Works perfect with Saheeli, right, who makes those energy creatures tokens. But at the beginning of our end step, we could pay 1 or more energy, and if we do, we make a vehicle. That's an XX, where X is the number of energy we spent that way, which is an interesting ability. I think the top ability matters a little bit more, just to net some more energy. We have Whirler Virtuoso. When it enters, gets us 3 energy, and we could pay 3 energy to make a Thopter. I kind of like the ability to turn energy into Thopters if we really want to go that game plan. If we can manage to get enough of them and get them going, it can really work out in our favor. And then this deck introduced Etheric Amplifier, a great 3-mana rock that for 4 mana could just double the number of energy we have, which is huge. It's right. It's a little expensive as far as a mana rock goes. Not everybody loves 3-mana rocks, but I think the upside of being able to just double your energy for 4 mana is huge, especially because you can only do it as a sorcery. But if we know we can make a ton on a turn, make a ton, then pay into it and double it, and I think you're just going to get a ton of value from it. Aether Refinery from that Modern Horizons 3 energy deck says if you'd get 1 or more energy, you get twice that much instead. And you could pay energy. You get an energy, and then you could pay any number to make a big creature token if we want to. Again, I just love it as an energy doubler. And then remember that if you copy it with Saheeli for the turn, and then you go to gain energy, you're quadrupling the number of energy you get each turn. So you can start to see where some of these interactions matter. Aetherworks Marvel, whenever a permanent we control is put into a graveyard, we get an energy. And we pay 6 energy to look at the top 6 and cast something from among them for free, which is huge. It's a huge ability when you start to see what you could potentially cast or at the right time. Remember that you can do that at instant speed, so that's kind of interesting, right? And can really be a way to get something either cheap to continue to fund your game plan, or dig for a way to respond to something. If somebody has something they need. A Decoction module gives us an energy whenever a creature we control enters. Then for 4 mana, we can return a creature back to its owner's hand. Or one of our creatures back to its hand. This is great if you have those ETB abilities you want again, or if you just want to protect a creature. That's an option there. Gonti's Aether Heart says whenever it or another artifact comes in, we gain 2 energy. This is a great way, I found, to start repaying Saheeli's ability very quickly, right? Getting 2 of that 3 energy back and making sure our energy reserves are always staying high. And then we could pay 8 energy and exile Gonti's Aether Heart to take an extra turn again. A great ability to use at a key time when you're ahead, you're getting towards it, and that extra turn might be the difference between, knocking a player or 2 out or getting yourself ahead. I think is well worth it. Is It Janitorium came out at Modern Horizons 3, and I like it in this deck. So it says if you get 1 or more energy, you get that much +1 instead. Not a bad ability, but I think, and it's very useful for us, right? Given that most of our deck wants to make energy. But the bottom ability, once I actually started playtesting the deck on my own, I realized isn't very hard to accomplish. So you can pay it, you can tap it to draw a card, but only if we've paid or lost 4 more energy this turn. Well, Saheeli costs 3 to do, right? So all we need to do is find a way to pay 1 more energy during our turn, and we can draw a card every turn with Is It Janitorium, which there's plenty of ways to do it, right? And so that's pretty cool, right? Getting the option to draw every turn that way. Era of Innovation says whenever an artifact or artificer enters, we could pay 1 if we get 2 energy. So this working really well with Saheeli, right? Because they care about the same things. And then we could pay 6 and energy and sack it to draw 3. So, if we ever need to refill our hand, we can do it that way. But I think the other thing to think about with Saheeli is because we're making tokens every combat, because we're paying energy to do it, I think we still want to make sure we care about artifact tokens, right? Because we're making them every turn. So there's a couple of things, fun enough, all 3 of them are from the big score from Outlaws of Thunder Junction, but all 3 of these cards I think work really well for what we're trying to do. Esoteric Duplicator says whenever we sacrifice it or another artifact, we can pay 2, and if we do it at the beginning of the next end step, we get a copy of that artifact. This is huge, right? Because for 2 mana, we can make a copy of that thing that we made a copy of, right? And it comes back as that 5/5, and now we have access to it under our control, and we're not losing it at the end of the turn like we did the original one. And this could be a great way to get a couple key copies of artifacts that we really want. One of them, and I couldn't put it in my $50 upgrade, although I really love it, is Simulacrum Synthesizer, a 3-mana artifact that says whenever it comes in, we get to scry 2. But the key thing is whenever another artifact with mana value 3 or greater enters, we get to make a construct. Well, remember that when Saheeli copies a permanent that's already on the battlefield, the token is going to have the mana value of the permanent that you copy, meaning that if I'm copying a creature that has mana value 3 or greater, this is triggering every turn. If I copy an artifact, this is triggering every turn, meaning I'm netting these constructs, which are just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and harder for our opponents to deal with. And I think that's one of the cards that can really set our game plan off. And then Woldwaker Helm, if we'd make 1 or more artifact tokens, we'd get a map instead. The map as an artifact says we can pay 1 and tap it and sack it to let a creature explore. Remember how exploring works is you're going to look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you get to put it in your hand. If it's a non-land card, you put a counter on the creature that explored, +1/+1 counter on the creature that explored, and you get your choice. You can put it back on top, or you can bin it into the graveyard. I like this because it's already not a bad ability. The maps can come in handy churning through our deck, right? even, getting access to more thing. But then you have the bottom ability to just pay 2 mana to make a copy of any artifact token you control. Now, the way this works with making copies of the creature that Saheeli makes is only the original is going to sacrifice itself at the end step. If you were to make a copy of it, the copy of it would stick around. This can be a really key ability to find, a turn where we make a key copy of something and net another copy of it to stick around. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is our version 1.0 shot at Saheeli, and I think there's a lot to learn in testing. One, how much do we really care about artifacts, and do we need to care about them more? Things like Fabricate to go get key artifacts at the right time. Adaptive Omni Tool came in the deck, and I think it's a cool card. I just wasn't sure if we were going to maybe be able to make enough Thopters to really make the Omni Tool worth it, although I really like the look of the top 6. But I think if we're going to make a ton of Thopters, there's other things to look into that can make tokens or help tokens get bigger. Do we look into the coat of arms of the worlds or the shared animosities of the world, right? If we're really going to make a ton of these artifact tokens. And on the flip side, something like Primal Prayers makes sense. Being able to pay an energy rather than paying the mana cost of creature spells with mana value 3 or less. We're not playing a ton of them, but I think there is enough of them and it could be worth it, right? Depending on what we choose to play. But it's an option to take the deck if you want to care more about it. We're playing a lot of big mana creatures in this deck, so I didn't think the Prayers was worth it. But I think if you wanted to go that route, I think it would make more sense. For me, if I had to pick anything I'm looking at going into testing for this deck specifically, it's the coat of arms, the shared animosities. How do we make more Thopters? Because I think you have the Whirler Rogue, you have the Shredhanger Automaton, you have other things that make Thopters, and I think it would be helpful for them to hit harder. It's just shared animosity, right? Making them hit even harder each combat, I think would be so beneficial to our game plan. But those are the things we're going to look at in testing. So let's get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest on the channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not to see how our deck could be perfect. It's to understand what are we looking for in a hand. How do we manipulate our first few turns? How do we try to find some semblance of value from each situation we're in to learn our deck better? Here we're keeping a 3-lander, Command Tower, Path of Ancestry, and that Vine Glimmer Snarl. And we have a Thoughtcast. For some draw, it gets cheaper for each artifact we have, Air of Innovation, and that Amplifier. So not a bad start. I think yes, the Ancestry turn 1, unless we find another way to make this Snarl come in untapped. I was going to say, I think it's my turn 2 play. Because we kind of want to make sure we're able to get some key things down. We see the Whirler Rogue there, right? Great way to make Thopters, and then we see Pia Nalar. So the thing I like about Pia really well with both Saheeli and things like Whirler Rogue that make Thopters is because the Thopters in the air, right? They're going to have a decent chance at getting into our opponents. And so Pia Nalar can actually net us, right? It can net us up to 6 energy a turn, right? So it's good to kind of pair her with these Thopter type game plans. I was going to say it's either Commander Sphere or the Amplifier. I guess there's 2 thoughts to this, right? Commander Sphere is a card I really like with Saheeli because if at minimum we want to make a copy of Commander Sphere, we can have it attack as a 5/5 and then sack it, right, to draw a card. I guess I can't get down, Saheeli no matter what this turn, so we'll just get our Mana Rock down again. I like the Amplifier because eventually, right, it could start doubling up. Here, Saheeli's 4, so if we choose to cast Saheeli, I think our turn's basically done. The question is, could we put something else out this turn that could set us up to gain more energy, right, for next turn when we could potentially put Saheeli down? So if I put, Commander Sphere down, I'd only have access to 3 mana this turn. Like, if I do, Pia plus, Air of Innovation, or something like that, that would set me up to potentially get some energy next turn. On the flip side, if I play Saheeli next turn and then play, Pia plus, an artifact, then I'm still netting energy, right? Genitorum is just a card I really like, but I think the answer is just Saheeli here. Get her down, it'll let me scry 1 because of the Path of Ancestry. That's a land, unfortunately, it's going to come in tap, but I think we need to keep it on top. I got nothing I can think to do for 1 mana here, so we'll just move to the next turn. Unfortunately, that Cinderglade is going to come in tapped. But now we still have 5 mana. I like the Genitorum first to get us in energies, just because that way if we do anything else, right, we can get it. And remember, it is on cast, right? It's got 3 mana left. I like the idea of Pia, just because it'll give us one, it'll give us two from the Genitorum, right? And then we could copy something this turn, but I don't think we're going to. 3 mana, right? We could play the Commander Sphere again, get 2 more energy, and then have access to another mana next turn. I think that doesn't seem like a bad idea, but P also doesn't seem like a bad idea, especially because if we choose to copy something this turn, then we potentially get more energy. I think I'll play the Commander Sphere, just get a couple more energy, get a couple more mana, right? And just kind of bide our time until next turn here. Because now my thought is now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. We got lots of mana. This Thoughtcast is down to just 2 mana at the moment. We could potentially get it down to just 1 mana. Rogue Refiner here, not bad. Could be able to draw a card. Wouldn't be a bad target for us to copy in combat, right? For its ability to get us some more energy to draw us another card. I'm thinking Pia. That'll net us 2 energy. And then the Rogue Refiner net us 3 energy and draw a card. Remember, we do get the buff from the Genitorum. Ooh, okay. I left up a colored energy I'd left up 1 mana for the Thoughtcast. Is it better to put it into Soul Ring? Well, no, because then we wouldn't have a colored mana for Thoughtcast, I guess, but it would also make us better next turn, and it would net us 2 more energy. This is an interesting choice. We would have scryed 1 off of Pinolar for that path. I think I'll just wait, because I kind of want to Thoughtcast this turn. So pay the 3 energy, right, from at the start of combat. And my thought here is copy the Rogue Refiner. Just so that way I can gain draw a card, gain 3 energy, right? And then it attacks, and before the turn's over, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Now I can play that Thoughtcast for just 1 blue mana, which we had, to draw 2. Again, my thought here is set our next turns up. We see Temur Ascendancy, which is great, because remember, everything that Saheeli's targeting is coming in as a 5/5, meaning we're going to draw from it. And then Russia Inspiration is kind of interesting as a way to have some land. Did we play a land this turn? Pretty sure we played the Cinder-Glade this turn. So we'll go to the next turn here. We've still got that Soul Ring. We've got Whirler Rogue. Again, great way to make whatever we copy unblockable. We got the Air of Innovation, which you can pitch draw some cards. But I like the Temur Ascendancy, because then whatever we copy with Saheeli's coming in. Tap that. Play the Soul Ring. Get a couple energy. Maybe Whirler Rogue, come in and get a couple Thopters. Whirler Rogue is an Artificer, so that's going to get us a couple more energy. That was 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would have enough mana left for the Era. Kind of have no reason not to, right? I guess I probably should have done it first, because that was an Artificer, right? Getting more energy from that. But my thought was then we can sack this to draw. But go to combat, pay 3. I think the answer is still the Rogue Refiner here. Draw a card, gain some energy, right? And then draw another card because of the Temur Ascendancy, right? And then all of these have haste, right? Because of the Temur Ascendancy. So we could attack with those Thopters this turn if we want to. P is probably going to end up netting us a couple more energy, probably at least 4, I'd guess. And then I'd probably just pay the 6 here to from the Era to draw a couple cards, because again, I think we're just looking to push for just that next thing we need. We get a couple more draw spells. I think we'll bail out of this playtest, because I think we've seen the mechanics. We're just missing the energy payoff, something to get some more things. I think we're starting to see it here, but we just couldn't find it that time. But I think we saw a good setup. Playtest number 2. Give it a 1, 2, 3 lander with a Soul Ring. Servant of the Conduit, the classic pay energy, get mana of any color. We see the Cybermen Squadron. We see Saheeli, a way to make some servo artifact tokens. So turn 1, we'll get that Soul Ring down, right? We drew Electrosiphon, a way to counter a spell and get energy equal to its mana value. And then we see the Gonti. We got no shot at getting a fancy turn 2 Saheeli. But that's okay. I think Conduit could make sense. That would be the only thing I'd be able to do. Can't do Gonti because it's only 4. I could do Saheeli, which would just start netting me some servos, but I think we'll do the conduit just to get that process started. That way we can use the energy on future turns, right? And just hold up that. Here, turn 3. Ooh. Foyer was great, right? Dealing a damage whenever we're making the copies of. We do have 6 mana. If I go Saheeli, I'm not netting any energy this turn. If I go Gonti, I'm not netting anything. I would net just 2. I think I answer Saheeli. But I have no way to gain an energy this turn, right? I didn't need to use the conduit to cast it, which is kind of awkward, but I guess I could tap Servant of the Conduit to get the Reckless Fireweaver out, right? Which would net me a energy back. So I would end up with the same amount of energy, right? But hey, then at least we have that going for future turns. Again, not enough energy to use Saheeli this turn. So we'd go into our next turn, turn 4. I really love the Squadron now. So that nets, loses everybody for 1. I have to, well, if I do that, I don't have enough energy to play these. I don't have enough energy for Saheeli's ability, right? Because I would lose 1 for using Servant, and I would gain 1 back, so we would be both back at 2, right? So maybe it's Gonti this turn, getting us 2 energy. Still lets the Fireweaver go off. And then we could spend it on something like Fireweaver. We could spend it on Conduit and get 2 of it back. Go down to 1, come back up to 3. And then get 2 more because of Gonti's Aether Hearts. We'd actually net 4 for paying, or we'd get 4 for paying 3, and we'd still get the Fireweaver trigger. I guess that's an option. Again, we don't have to do it, but it feels like a good idea to do it when we can, right? And my only idea with the conduit was that it automatically gets me 2 when we bring it in. So we basically would go up to 5 energy. So I'm saying my thought is here. This deals a damage. This was netting us that 2 energy, and then we're not in bad shape there. Coming back to turn 5 now. I think I'm more than willing to pay the mana pay the 1 for the Servant because I get it back, right, with the Squadron, and then I get 2 more for Gonti. So now we're really, right, taking advantage of the energy strain. Now here, I have absolutely no problem going down to 4 on combat to make a copy of this Cyberman Squadron, which is going to, damage here, right, 2 back from Gonti for an artifact coming in. And then when I attack with this Squadron, and I can't attack with the other Squadron this turn, right, because it doesn't have haste, but when I attack with this Squadron, I'm getting 4 more, 2 of them each attacking my other opponents. So now I'm netting 8 energy here, right? Because it doesn't say non-token. And then this is going off 4 more times, right? So now we have lots of these guys attacking, right? Potentially to get some damage in, and then, right, all 5 of them go away. But again, the point is, now we're in great shape. And if we had other artifact creatures like, say, Thopters, right, now you're in great shape because they're getting myriad. Now they're getting more, of that. So as we come back to our turn, Rogue Refiner would be great to get access to some draw maybe. And remember, we're at the point where we can pay 8 into that Gonti's Aether Heart to actually take an extra turn. But we'll play the Rogue Refiner, draw, make 2 from Rogue Refiner, and that's right, nothing from either of the other ones because it's not an Artificer. 3 mana left. We do have enough for the Aether Torch Renegade. So that comes in and gets us 4. Again, not a bad copy target, but I think right now we want to copy the Cyberman Squadron again, right? So go down to 17, make a copy of the Squadron. Another damage right here. So the Renegade can pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana to deal 7 energy to deal 6 damage to a player. So that's always an option to know about. But I think same thing here. I go here, attack 4 more. We've just got a ton of energy, and deal some more damage out. Try to point them in the right directions. Again, force our opponents to block, force them to take bad blocks, hit for some damage, and then I think I would just go ahead and crack the Gonti now. just to take an extra turn, because this is just going to keep getting harder for our opponents to deal with, right? This Cyberman Squadron game plan. Come to our turn. The fun part about Saheeli is we can have the servo that we could make with it become a copy of Cyberman Squadron until end of turn, and then have 3 myriad copies, right? So my thought is here, play the Saheeli, play a Farseek. That is a non-creature spell, so we're going to make a servo, and we'll just go get a random land. We won't go too deep on what land we're getting, because the truth is it's not going to matter. We're going to be done with the playtest. But the point is we -3 here, right? Have this servo become a copy of the squadron till end of turn, right? Go to combat, use Saheeli to make a copy of the squadron. Now we have 2 copies of this squadron attacking. And remember, they all have 3 copies of, they have 3 instances of Myriad. So this one is going to have, right, I'll just do this to make it easy, 6 copies of itself attacking all of our opponents. Same thing with this one. Now we've net 12 from this Artificer this turn. These are all 5/5s, right? So you can start to see where this Cyberman Squadron game plan gets really fun with Saheeli. Well, we'll get into our last playtest. Keeping a 3-lander with the Simulacrum, Esoteric Duplicator, Rogue Refiner, and that Cyberman Squadron again. Turn 1, I think we'll get the Shelter Ticket in, just so that way this guy and this guy can both come in untapped next turn. Ooh, the Verge is great, now that we have a typed everything down. But I think we just keep it going. Turn 3, we see Teamer Ascendancy, which is great for some board draw. So I guess it's either the Refiner or one of these guys. The Synthesizer lets me draw 2, or lets me scry 2. This is going to let me draw and get a couple energy. I think I like the idea of that. Just again, get the energy party started. Get into some more things. Because I think this turn, right, we're getting Saheeli down, right? There's kind of no reason not to get the party started turn. Turn 5, now is where we could start having some fun. We see the Thunder Hulk, another great one of, right, of our artifact creatures to copy. I get the Teamer Ascendancy in, then I can start, drawing when I copy. But I think I like the Synthesizer. That's going to net me an energy. All right, I've got 2 mana left. Nothing too sexy that I think I can do with it. But if I pay the 3 energy, here's my thought. If I pay the 3 energy here to make a copy of the Synthesizer, I just realized that I would have scried 2 off the Synthesizer. I like the Rush, but we've got a ton of mana. I guess we still need the mana to get there. And I love the Titan, but I think we'll keep the Rush on top. This one's going to let us scry 2 again. This is going to make us the Construct. And then, now we can attack with the Synthesizer copy. But hey, now we have this Construct laying around, right? And now next turn, I think we put the Rush. Does the Rush come in tapped? We're still 1 mana off. Because we need the energy. I think this comes in on the backside, comes in tapped. We've got 5 energy. Remember, this is going to go off if we have an artifact come in with that much mana. I like the idea of Teamer Ascendancy because, again, it would get us the draw, but I think we want something like Virtue or the Whirler Virtuoso, because that gets us 1 energy when we cast it, and then 3 when it comes in, right? So that's pretty great. And then I don't think I could do anything with the 2 leftover mana. My thought coming into combat is making a copy of the Virtuoso, because then we get to stay the same energy we're at. Simulacrum makes us another construct because this is an artifact, and then now we have a couple constructs that can attack. And the thing I like about the thing like the Virtuoso that's giving us 3 energy is it's just paying back what we've already paid for, right? Which I think is really important, because then the next turn, again, if no one shakes the board state, you put the Helios 1 down. There's a lot of options. I think the Squadron makes the most sense because it gives these guys Myriad, and they're actually going to have double Myriad, right? Because we're obviously now going to make a copy of Cyberman Squadron, right? And now we're off to the races with constructs that are just going to get huge, big attacks. And I think I like that endgame there. Let me know, what do you think of Saheeli? down in the comment section below. Our playtest did really well this time. We got to have some longer playtests and work through those issues. I hope you guys enjoyed it, but I will catch you all in the next one.